Pregame.com.
Welcome back to pregame.tv. SEC action Saturday. This has got to be one of the spotlight games of the week. We've got Florida against LSU. And, Ken, you can't have more contrasting styles than these two teams because Florida's all about the defense. I mean, let's face it, their offense is coming around, but, you know, they've played some soft foes. But LSU, their offense, nobody's been able to stop them. And last week, which was a flat spot, I thought, for them coming off of Georgia. You know, I know they lost and you want to bounce back, but still, you come off the Georgia game and you've got Florida up next. That was a situation that a lot of times teams are going to come out flat, looking ahead to the next game and feeling sorry for themselves after losing the game the way they did to Georgia at the end. But, boy, they answered and they put up a ton of points again last week against the Mississippi State team that, you know, now we're probably seeing is not as good as we thought. You know, they might have been. They weren't an elite team, but we didn't think they were as bad as they looked last week.
Well, they were actually, it was 28-26 after three quarters. They were right there. All right, till the end of the third quarter, they got a field goal. So 31-26, you're still covering with Mississippi State. Going to the fourth quarter, they got outscored 28-0. But you look at that, and I think the problem was that Mullins was switching the quarterbacks. Russell was just back. He had gone with the other kid earlier who can run a little better, but Russell's the guy that can throw the ball. And when you get into a shootout with LSU, you want to have the better thrower in there because you know Mettenberger can throw.
Absolutely. And, you know, and speaking of Mettenberger, I mean, we talked about it in previous videos with LSU. I think the addition of Cam Cameron has just totally changed, you know, the landscape of this offense. I mean, this offense is clicking on all cylinders. I mean, it used to be, you know, run, then pass when we needed to. They've got total balance on this offense. They can run for over 200 yards, pass for over 200 yards. You know, and last week, he threw the last 2 weeks, listen to his stats, Mettenberger's, 23 of 37 for 372 against Georgia, and last week 25 of 29 for 340 against Mississippi State. Mississippi State didn't have an answer for him at all in the game last week.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They wore them down. LSU didn't make any mistakes like they did against Georgia in the latter stages of that game, and that's why when you look at the final score, it looks like, wow, what a blowout. But that's because they kept their foot on the gas and they kept on pushing.
Yeah, you know, and you love to see that, you know, especially if you're going to be looking at a team laying points when you've got a coach that his personality is going to keep the, you know, the foot on the gas pedal. You want that. You don't want that back door open. And looking at Florida, you know, I have liked Florida the last couple of weeks. I thought that there was going to be an overreaction to the quarterback situation, you know, when Driscoll went down. The backup has played adequately. And, you know, the last 2 weeks, he's gotten better. 2 weeks ago, he was 15 of 18, but they were all dink and dunk in that game. He only had
breaking himself in. Another thing about the Florida defense, though, real quick, with Easley out, their best player. Yes, they're very physical. They're very good. But who have they played offensively, like a Georgia, like an LSU, like a Missouri? These teams are going to press them, and they are going to continually put pressure on that defense. Let's see how good that D is after the game in Jacksonville against Georgia, after this game down in Baton Rouge against LSU.
Absolutely. And then, you know, going 15 of 18 2 weeks ago against a very poor Kentucky team, it was great percentage-wise, but he only had 158. But then last week, he did go 16 of 22 for 240, so they stretched the field a little bit. But if you watch the Florida-Arkansas game last week, the final score says it was a 20-point game. It really wasn't. Arkansas was in that game most of the game, and it was two big plays that set up Florida. I think they had a punt return or a kick return set up one of the touchdowns. Then they had an interception return that got this team, and the game ended actually with Arkansas inside the 5-yard line.
Keep an eye on Beal and those boys, man, because that running game's solid. This quarterback is good. They get things rolling. This is a young team. They're going to be good.
They're definitely – Arkansas is a different team when they have their starting quarterback in there. He missed a couple games, but he's been back the last two. The Arkansas offense much more efficient. But you know what? This is my free pick, Ken. Let's go ahead and make it official. All right, I'm going to look to the home team, LSU, here, and lay the 7 points with this game. You know, it's a situation where, generally speaking, I would be tempted to go and take the defensive dog. You know, you got a team that can play defense and you're giving them points, they can hang around. But this LSU offense, it's just too explosive. And as good as the Florida defense has been, They haven't faced an offense anywhere near this, as Ken said. They're going to get thoroughly tested on Saturday. And the problem when you play a team like LSU and you've got an offense that really has to grind it out to get the scores is if LSU puts those quick scores up on you and then you've got to try to answer, you can't grind down the field with the running game and try to dink and dunk to get back in the game. If LSU gets any kind of separation here, then Florida's got to force the issue. And forcing the issue is when bad things can happen with a young quarterback. I got to go with LSU. I like what Mettenberger has been doing in this offense. He loves the Cameron offense, setting him up for playing next year in the NFL, that's for sure. And I think they get the job done here. It is a revenge game for LSU. I like to look at revenge. Obviously, every time teams play, somebody's in revenge. So that's a phrase that's overused too often in sports, but there's certain games that are key and circled on people's schedule. And when you're a team like LSU that doesn't lose maybe 1 or 2 games a year, you're circling the team that beat you the year before, and that was Florida. And we're going to go ahead and take LSU. I've got LSU winning this one 30-17, Ken. I'll lay the 7 points. Want to go ahead and get down on that in case later in the week the public gets involved. I think they will come in on the LSU side, might bump this up over that 7. Definitely want to grab the 7 while you can get it.
I thought you were going to go LSU, so I wore the purple shirt and purple tie.
There you go. All right. He's the man. All right. We're coming back next. We're going to go to St. Louis at Houston. I'm glad Ken's going to be talking about this one because I'm tired of talking about Houston and Matt Schaub. Oh, what another bad game last week. We'll talk about that next. Pregame.tv.